started. Okay, I am also have enabled the live transcript and closed captioning. You can see that at the bottom of your screen. Please enunciate clearly so that we make sure that that transcript works well. We also have an ASL interpreter here today, Rebecca. If you need to see Rebecca, make sure that you go up to the upper left corner and pin her in place, and then you'll be able to see her. If there is anyone who ever needs any other accommodations, please let me know. I'm Liz Kramer. I'm the chair of the Community Mobility Committee. So as a place for residents and interested individuals to advocate for and learn about mobility and transportation issues in the city of St. Louis. Okay, so a couple of ground rules in our conversation. Please be respectful in all of our conversations and questions. We're really grateful to our partners from the city for their participation in this committee and the work that they do to advocate for mobility and create better, safer options in the city. So everyone who's here, we really encourage you to be respectful of their hard work and efforts, as well as varying opinions. We also ask that everyone avoid jargon or acronyms. If you're using a technical transportation term, please define it and ideally share a link in the chat. Not all of our members are familiar with this language, and we want to create an inclusive space where we're all learning. We also want to be mindful of time. We will encourage more follow-up to happen outside of this meeting through both notes and then also direct answers to questions. We hope this will help keep our meetings focused and respectful. And I want to encourage everyone to use the chat to share their questions and responses. That being said, I want to get started with some introductions. So if you are joining us today and you are a member or a community member, please identify yourself in the chat, your name, if you're representing an organization, let us know who's here. And then I'm going to ask our city staff. I think we have Kim here. And then Jamie, are you on the phone?
Yes, I am.
All right, Jamie, do you want to start off with a quick introduction of yourself?
Sure. Jamie Wilson, City of St. Louis Traffic Commissioner.
Great, thank you so much for being here. Kim, you want to do a quick introduction?
Sure. Hi, I'm Kim Kreitner, and I'm sitting in for Andrew Lackey today.
Great.
I'm with the Office on the Disabled in St. Louis City Hall.
Thanks, Kim. And then Bethany Williams is just connected to audio, so Bethany, I don't want to put you on the spot, but we're just doing city introductions if you want to say hello. I think she might still be getting settled. Okay, so we'll hear more from them later.
I am so sorry. I'm getting out of a meeting and was talking to Mary about my next meeting, but hello, you said we're doing introductions. Hello, I'm Bethany Williams. And yes, sorry for being late today.
Thank you for being here. We're really grateful for your time. Okay, so I'm going to drop the agenda into the chat. Likely many of you have seen that already. So please take a look at what we have coming up today. I'm also going to drop the notes from our last meeting, the May meeting, into the chat. I want to note that the original set of notes I set out had an incorrect link in it. And also excluded the letter that the voting members sent to USDOT in support of improved car standards. So if you'd like to see that, you can take a look at the public comment. Are there any other changes or concerns in the notes from last month? All right, cool. Great. Well, thank you. So I'm going to move us, I love seeing all these introductions in here. I'm going to move us into our section of public comment. And I want to preface this by saying that rather than trying to have a dialogue about the issues that we're raising during public comment, we really are inviting members of the committee or members of the public to share their concerns, their observations and questions for up to 2 minutes. We also will share any email comments that we've received. We're asked not to have a response to these in the session. We follow up with them afterwards for more dialogue and discussion and to ensure that people have enough time to respond. One particular note for today, if you have comments about scooters and particularly scooters downtown, please hold that for our next agenda item so we can talk a little bit more about scooters. So anything that is a non-scooter topic is up for grabs right now. So I want to open the floor and see if there is anyone who has any comments they'd like to share. Sam.
Thanks, Liz. Kind of directed towards John and Jamie. I sent you guys an email last week. We've been having some issues with parking and just usage around the parklet at the corner of Laclede and Vandeventer. People illegally parking in between where the parklet ends and the intersection of Laclede and Vandeventer, which is incredibly dangerous. Just issues with the bike rack there. I sent you guys an email, just a quick sketch of just like some possibilities to restrict parking there. To make sure that doesn't happen again. Whatever we can do to kind of deter that behavior would be great. Just trying to make that great amenity that we have, First Parkland, City of St. Louis, making sure it's, I noticed there's some cafe tables out there and it's growing in terms of shade and things like that. So that'd be great, whatever we can do to make sure cars who are driving around there are not inhabiting or hurting people who are using the parklet. So.
Thanks, Sam, for sharing that. And we'll follow up also with streets about that. Dawn.
Hello. I noticed I live near the intersection of Jefferson and Park and then Jefferson and Lafayette, and the street lanes were recently repainted, but the pedestrian crosswalks have not been. And because of the recent construction around Highway 44, the pedestrian crosswalks have almost disappeared entirely in various crosswalks in those two intersections. And so I have submitted a request through the Citizen Service Bureau to get those repainted, but also just wanted to bring it up in this meeting to bring it up to the people in here to get that taken care of.
Thanks, Dawn, for raising that. And thank you also for submitting it to CSB already. Kia has a comment that is about that also.
Yeah, thank you, Liz. I wanted to add that the same problem is happening on Jefferson and Russell near where I live. And in addition, I've submitted several CSB requests about the fact that it is missing pedestrian crossing signals on 2 out of 4 of those corners. And it is a really short light. Like I think it's 22 seconds plus like a 3-second like dude, which because the parking lanes on either side of the road are used as driving lanes functionally and turning lanes because like there aren't active residents and businesses on either side of at least the north side of the intersection. It makes it a really quick cross even for someone who's able-bodied. So just wanted to add that as a corridor-wide problem. And it was restriped like as recently as 2 years ago, but it's already gone just because of the like lack of maintenance at that intersection. So adding it on.
Thanks, Kia. Appreciate that. And I think Jefferson is also one of the corridors where there will be some attention in the next couple of years. Jackie has a comment. Do you want to say anything, Jackie? Jackie says,
no, I don't think I need to say anything, but yeah, the Chestnut bike lane is blocked downtown with construction and no detour route. So I know there's tons of construction in downtown. Just pointing that out.
Thank you. Okay. So we've got stuff blocking things, some things missing. Any other comments that folks want to raise? Non-scooter comments. There's also a block sidewalk at 12th and Market with no detour marked. So, and Taylor, it's a work zone blockage.
Okay. Yeah, Liz, this isn't really a comment, just wanted to update people. I know last time we were talking about this kind of safe routes biking map. And I took some time out of my day to kind of build that out. So I'll pop that in the chat. I know I gave people an update on that. So there that is. That is I'll preface that this is not a perfect map. This is based off of my experience biking and working in St. Louis. This is my experience of working for TrailNet, doing community rides across the city of St. Louis. Some of the streets we use. This is bringing in traffic counts. This is bringing in crash data as well, to try to make a somewhat decent attempt to try to show where there's some somewhat decent safe biking routes across St. Louis. I kind of layered it into a kind of all ages and abilities up to kind of like, hey, maybe you shouldn't bike on Kings Highway kind of thing. So again, this map is not perfect. Use it as your own discretion. Everyone is a completely different person on a bike, no matter what. So this is one person's opinion with some guidance from statistics and things like that and crashes. So, but that was one thing that we just talked about last meeting, and just now we have a resource. And I did it on Google My Maps instead of ArcGIS because you can actually download this directly into your Google Maps. So if you're trying to get from point A to point B, the map will then show up on your Google Maps on your phone, so you can see that. So that's why I did it on there. Willing to take questions in the chat privately as well. People have things on that. So just want to put that in there.
Thanks, Sam, and thanks for doing the follow-up on that. Okay. Any last general comments or questions?
Liz, I've got just a general update regarding ARPA funding, the north-south arterials, in response to some of your inquiry from the CMC to the city of St. Louis. I wanted to give you an update on what we're potentially planning to do on those north-south arterials. We are looking at hiring a traffic engineering consultant to look at all the lane configurations and come up with engineered restriping plans, looking at how do we connect areas that have already incorporated lane modifications. We want a consistent corridor from north to south. We're looking at potentially painted traffic calming features to improve the safety of the corridors. We're also looking at enhancing all those pedestrian crosswalks that someone mentioned earlier in this meeting. So all the crosswalks will potentially be an enhanced type continental style, which is the safest, best performing pedestrian crosswalk marking. And so we're wanting to do this in advance of the paving so that when we do get around to paving those corridors, we have these well thought out striping plans along the entire length. So that's all very positive news. And I'll take any questions if anyone has an issue on that.
Thank you, John, for that update. That's really good to hear that there'll be some overlap. We have just about one more minute in this section. If anyone has any other comments or a question for John, also feel free to raise questions in the chat and we will follow up with John afterwards.
One more quick comment, Liz. Sorry to hijack a lot of things, but tonight is the public open house for the traffic calming meeting along North Kings Highway. Very, very important meeting. North Kings Highway, the area they're talking about there, is one of the highest pedestrian crash corridors within the city of St. Louis, specifically Del Mar North, that kind of area around Aldi. So if you live in the area or if you know someone who lives in the area, please tell them to attend that meeting. I'll put the flyer in the chat.
Thank you, Sam. Okay, and Kaylina's got a bridge gap on Jefferson. We'll make sure that that gets passed along to you. Okay, thank you, everyone. So I want to move into our next topic, which we'll be talking about scooters. I want to remind everyone of our ground rules. I think we're going to have a range of differing opinions about this, but please be respectful in our conversation. I believe that either Jamie or Bethany are going to give us a little bit of an update on what's been happening downtown with scooters. So I'm going to ask them to just give us a short update on the scooters. I have a couple of questions to raise, and I'm gonna kind of manage our discussion once we've gotten an update from them. And we're hoping to spend about 15 minutes in this conversation. So Bethany, Jamie.
So good afternoon. Thank you for this opportunity to kind of talk about where we are with scooters. As we all know, we got a lot of complaints as the season, we started moving into spring with scooters on the sidewalks. Some of our key issues that we were getting was large groups of children or not just children, young adults on scooters riding together at the same time. We got a question about just like riding on the sidewalks for pedestrian safety things. That was one of the concerns we got, as well as just looking at the timing of when we're allowing these scooters, as well as the parking, like people are just leaving scooters parked everywhere. So those were some of the things that we were presented with from the community-based groups as this one that shared some of that information with the city, which ultimately led to a couple of weeks we had it open where scooters were kind of up and running, and we just started running into major problems. You know, they were speeding. We had a couple of major events downtown with parades that they were just, people were riding through the parades or riding like they were participants in the parades or cutting across the parades and doing different things like that. And just with first responders, we got a lot of calls, I feel like maybe 2 weeks ago, that really just made us pull the cord and say, let's take a break from scooters for a period of time, just to see with that calmness in the city, what would that do? At no given time do we want to, as a city, take away a mode of transportation from our residents, as well as a system that provides some type of luxury where people can experience our city, they can visit different areas, parts of town, and understand and embrace the culture of St. Louis. So we do not want to take that away, but we also want to make sure that this is something that is safe for our residents that live downtown, live in these different areas, as well as visitors that are frequenting the areas. We want to make sure that it is something that they feel comfortable with as well. So over the last 2 weeks, as you know, the scooters have been, we mandated that all scooters are picked up, all scooters in downtown, they're not on, we've geo-fenced the area, so anyone that tries to approach areas of downtown, the scooters automatically slow down and turn off. And then you have to walk the rest of your route from there if you're entering downtown, the downtown area. We've met with both of our suppliers, which are Bird and Lime, over the last few weeks. We've called them into meetings. We've brainstormed. We've sent them back with homework. We've requested data. One thing about myself and about this administration, we are very data driven. We do take it, a large percent of all of our decision making is based off of public comments, what the community is seeing, what the community wants, but we also look at it from a data standpoint, and that's what we've challenged these two corporations to come together and provide us some data. And so what they are able to provide us is what's a notable trip, so they can tell us, like, if people are traveling for work, or if it's, I'm just going on lunch and I want to take lunch down at the culinary or somewhere like that, or to a restaurant, or they're riding over to a baseball game. These are all qualified trips that both of these companies are able to provide us this information, as well as tell us where people are picking up scooters, where they're leaving scooters, the directions that they're traveling, the times of day, all of this. And so we can identify, how do we move forward with keeping the scooters in the city of St. Louis, or making the decision not to keep them in downtown St. Louis, as well as identifying do we need to put parameters on this? I think that years ago when the scooters came to the city of St. Louis, it was new, it was fun, it was innovative, it was something to get people here. But now we have different components that we have to merge together to figure out a plan on how we utilize these. So what I want to share with you all are just some of the highlights from some of our meetings that we've had. So we've looked at the number of scooters in downtown St. Louis. Currently, I feel like it's 1,000+ scooters in just downtown St. Louis. So we've asked them to look at what will it look like if we decrease the number of scooters in downtown St. Louis. That's one key thing that we feel like if we don't have that many scooters for people to ride, then they can't gang all together and ride the scooters at one time. Also looking at curfews, and not just on weekends, but during the week. We know that we have more credible trips during the week. Identifying what are those times? When do we see that it changed from just joyriding on the scooters to I'm using this as a mode of transportation to get from point A to point B and back to point A or wherever else you're going. So we've asked them to identify that and then look at what are the times where we're seeing some of the behaviors that are causing us not to want scooters in the city of downtown St. Louis. So curfews, if we look at maybe at 7 p.m., I'm just throwing a number out there. And this is something that the number and their data will be able to tell us if 7 p.m. Monday through Thursday is a good time and 6 p.m. on the weekends. You know, we want to make sure that someone coming to visit downtown, they can see the arch, they can go to Union Station, they can go to all these different spots, they can visit, have lunch on Washington, they can go to a ball game and not have to Uber or walk all of these different places. So this is a mode of transportation that we want to keep in the city of St. Louis, but looking at when are we seeing these key times that we're seeing some of this behavior. So curfews is another important thing. Looking at decreasing the speed limit. Right now, it's for the experience, the total experience and safety, where a person feels like, okay, if I'm in the driving lane, I still feel safe. They're saying is 15 miles per hour. Anything less than that, that causes a person to feel like, okay, let me get on the sidewalk. So identifying what's that balance that will keep them in the driving lane and off of the sidewalks. That's something that we're looking at now as well. Do we geofence all of the sidewalks? Do they have some type of system on the scooter that once you enter onto a sidewalk, it makes this noise that says, you know, you're on the sidewalk, beep, 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 until you get back into the roadway, that sound will continuously be made. They've also told us that they have a face recognition on the bikes to deal with underage riders and group riding, you know, people using one credit card to rent out multiple scooters. Now they are able to give us where they do face recognition with the ID and the name on the credit card should match. You can only use one form of pavement per scooter. So Bethany, if I went down with my friends would need their own form of pavement in order to ride their scooters, because they would have to use their face recognition, their ID will all have to be loaded in order to operate the scooter. So these are some of the things that we have asked them to come up with, as well as Bird and both Lime. They have said that they're willing to implement some of these changes because they really do want to keep the scooters in downtown St. Louis. They see it as a viable thing, but we also know that we are faced with a lot of challenges. So those are some of the things that we're looking at currently now. You know, where do they park? You know, we're looking at identifying parking zones where it will continue to charge you until you park it in one of these zones. So these are some of the things that these companies are willing to do so that we can see some changes in some of the behaviors after dark or whenever it is that we're seeing with scooter riding. So wanted to leave that with you all. That's where we are. That's where we are trying to figure out how do we do this. And we know that we have a community here that wants the scooters, and the community is like, get rid of them tonight. Don't even go into tomorrow, never bring them back. So we know that we have both of those communities, and we just want to find a place where we can find that happy medium and everyone can be happy with this mode of transportation.
Thank you so much for that detailed explanation, and especially all of the different ways that you're working with the companies. So we have a bunch of questions and comments in the chat, and some folks who would like to raise some questions. I am just going to put quickly in the chat, I think, some questions that I'd like everyone to think about in the committee. What role do scooters really play in our transportation landscape? What changes to scooter operation from the experience of people who live and work in the city would help improve the situation? Like, what are some things that we think might be helpful also? What micromobility needs are we not addressing right now? And what kind of community input should be part of these decisions going forward? How can we help support the streets department and planning and the mayor's office in this process? So if you have, particularly if you have comments about those questions, I think that's something that we'd really love to hear about. So we've heard a couple of comments from Becca about expanding to Soulard because of the danger in Soulard with folks on scooters. And then I think Jackie has a question, so I'm going to open it up to Jackie.
So if I could, before Jackie speaks, so on one of the calls, we did talk about what does it look like expanding some of these parameters across the city. I think that this is the downtown area is just the area that's the hotspot issue right now for us, but this is something we will look at expanding across the city. Both of these companies have said that they are willing and able to implement this across the city, you know, almost as fast as pushing of a button, that they can implement some of these parameters in different areas. And some of this stuff, if you look at like the ID recognition and the one form of payment, this may be things that we utilize across the city from the start. Jackie?
Thanks. Hey, and thanks for the information. It is wonderful to hear that there's ongoing conversations between the company and the city about, you know, what the future of the scooter program in St. Louis looks like. With that being said, I did just have a comment on the origin of the micromobility services, and I just wanted to, you know, make sure that we kind of talked about that a little bit, and maybe a suggestion for establishing some sort of like working group within the mobility committee. But, you know, I've heard a lot of commentary on people taking them to ball games or to the restaurant or around Soulard. And really the goal of bringing the micromobility services to St. Louis was to serve as a powerful mobility tool for that first mile, last mile transit gap. And for folks and individuals that can't afford a car, or even right now, maybe have to choose between buying gas for their car or putting, you know, dinner on the table for their family. And so I think like removing them in our central business district might be problematic, especially for hospitality workers or individuals that might be working later shifts who, you know, maybe a curfew is the right answer, but maybe they need some extra help getting to the transit stop. So I don't know. I just wanted to make sure that we kind of talked about that goal a little bit and thinking about ways to help with that first mile, last mile gap. If scooters are not going to be an option, you know, like, can we try to explore e-bikes further? Different things like that. So, and then one question I have about infrastructure too, and I guess we don't have to get into this right now, but thinking about ways to, if we want to encourage people to ride on the streets, like developing scooter parking corrals or places on the street to park your scooter so it really looks like a device that belongs on the street. I don't know. I feel a little bit upset by the ban because to me, it does feel like a way to criminalize people for not being able to afford a car. And so I was just going to throw out the suggestion of developing some sort of working group with the mobility committee to try to answer some of these questions that Liz put in the chat. And yeah, I think that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you, Jackie, for those comments. Bethany, I don't know if you have any response that you want to make to that, or we can move to the next question and can follow up later.
Yeah, so I did take some notes on that first and last mile gap. I think that is very important. We know that this mode of transportation is being utilized by more than just this population of people that are coming down and doing bad illegal behaviors. And so that's where we want to make sure we find that balance of what it is. Also, they've even presented to us, and I didn't talk, I was looking at my notes here, but this is just from like what we've asked them to go back and look at the last time. But they also talked about giving us numbers of equitable trips, like where, like people that they have ways that you could reduce fares for certain areas. If you are on any type of government assistance, you have through their app, you can apply to get cheaper trips and that type of thing. So they did explore and to present some of that information to us. We didn't dive more into of getting that information of what do those numbers look like? Who are these people that are riding to help in this decision? But I did make a note of that because I will take that in consideration when we look at the final outcome.
Can I just mention one more thing? Sorry, real quickly, Liz, but I hope when you all look at the impact of the ban in downtown and, levels of activity, you're also taking into account like weather considerations. Because I did see an article in the Post-Dispatch after the scooters were banned for the first weekend saying that crime was down, but we also had record-breaking heat that week. So just kind of thinking about levels of activity outside and how that might coincide with weather patterns too.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Jackie. Okay, so we had some questions about how data is used, and Bethany will follow up with you on that.
Okay.
But Kia, you have a question or comment, I believe.
Yeah, thanks, Liz. Actually, I have a couple of questions that kind of all flow together. And I just want to give full disclosure here that I'm a journalist. I just wrote an article this morning about the scooter ban in St. Louis. And I really struggled to access data from the city on the safety concerns at play here. And I really appreciate, Bethany, that you said that this administration is trying to make data-driven decisions. However, I don't really understand what the actual safety impact of these scooters has been, if there's actual data on crashes, if there's actual data on how many like car crashes have increased in the wake of the ban, things like that. The only data point I was able to get was from Bird itself, which showed that like only 0.0013% of bird rides in St. Louis have ever resulted in an injury, which makes us one of the safest metros for scooters in the entire country. So question one is, when will we get actual data on the supposed safety impacts of these modes? And question two is, in the conversations about sidewalk riding, has there been any discussion about giving scooters and other modes of transportation a space that is their own outside of the automobile right-of-way or the pedestrian right-of-way on the sidewalk to ride? Are pop-up bike lanes in the conversation, or are we going to continue to use the blunt instrument of eliminating an entire mode of transportation in a major area of the city just because we have not provided the facility that mode really requires? So two questions.
So the first, and thank you for those. The first one, I will look at pulling some of that safety impact data. As far as crashes and things of that nature, we may have some of that here in my office, but that may be more from first responders where I can get that information and share that. But we will get numbers out. Whatever I can get, I will get it and provide to this group. The second question was bike lanes and shared use lanes. And so that's part of this discussion. Like, if I remove you from the sidewalk, where do you go? And that's why when I spoke to the piece about the 15 miles per hour is where they consider that space where I feel safe to stay in the lane or in a bike lane or something of that nature. Anything lower than that, human instinct will say, let me get to a safer place, which is the sidewalk. So that's where we're trying to identify, maybe we look at this where we have striped out bike lanes, or we look at where can we implement a higher speed in places where we have dedicated lanes for these modes of transportation. So those are all parts of the conversation. Yes, our transportation, our ADA enhancement projects, we're still enhancing the city limits. We're still adding bike lanes to certain areas. Our biking plan, we're still looking at that. But as we develop that, how do we keep this mode of transportation moving and viable in our city? But we will continue to look at that as well.
Thank you, Bethany. And we had a number of questions and comments that I think relate to that around what are some ways that might improve the scooter infrastructure so that there isn't so much of a conflict with pedestrians from a number of folks. I'm going to pick out one final question here, which is about how precise that data might be around where trips are starting or ending, and if there is a way to know when they're starting or ending at transit stops, including bus stops. I don't know if that data is currently available, but that might be of interest.
So that is something that they pretty much just showed us this map, and it just had dots, and really, to me, it just looked like street lights were on at night. But we've asked them to break that down and show us exactly where these trips are starting. Can you give me an ending spot, or is it just a starting spot that you can give me? So these are all questions that we've asked them to share that information with us as we make that decision on what's credible trips and what time are these credible trips happening. And so that's something that they brought to us that they can provide. And so now we're just pushing the limit to see, okay, break this data down and show me where these trips are happening and where are they going to and from. And so they both told us that they're able to share that information on some level. So we're just waiting for that information from them.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for taking the time. We have a couple comments about how the concerns about scooters seem to overlap a lot with the concerns about cars downtown. And of course, people also driving in groups, which is part of what led to the downtown traffic calming for and enforcement focus that we talked about a few months ago. So I think that's still a thing to continue talking about. What's the long-term traffic plan and traffic calming plan downtown? So I'm sorry to move us on from this topic. I know there have been a lot of comments in the chat, and I want everyone to know that every one of those comments will make it into the notes. We will also summarize them and send them to Streets and the mayor's office so that they have those on hand in these conversations. And we'll follow up with Streets to hear more about the data that comes back. So again, thank you so much, Commissioner, for being here. We really appreciate that. I want to hand this over to our other downtown guest today. We have Mark Minden here with us, who is with Labyrinth Mobility, and they are running the Downtown Link. So I'm going to hand it over to Mark to talk a little bit about their program.
Hello, happy Wednesday. Can everybody hear me? Okay, good. I just want to say it's a pleasure to be here and see a group of 30 plus people excited about transportation and mobility, as that's my passion too. I'm going to play a short video, but I just want to make an introduction. I am Executive Vice President of Business Development for Labyrinth Smart Mobility, Inc. We think about mobility as a utility, much like the street is or the sidewalk, and it should be free. The best way that we can describe the service that we use is with an elevator analogy, and that is, how important is an elevator to a building? And have you ever paid for an elevator before? What we do is we think about a turnkey solution, providing a horizontal elevator through a district that's free for people to use, that will pick you up where you are and take you where you want to go with a community ambassador. And with that, I do want to also make one note here. My company is very into multi-mobility. We believe in cooperating with multiple transit operators, whether it's public transit, scooters, bike share, rideshare, and we are just one cog in a wheel of transportation through an area. And if I could share screen, I can. I'm going to play a quick video. Can everyone see this?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry.
There's a movement happening and it's electric.
It's amazing, Sid, amazing, really.
And it won't cost you anything.
You want me to ride? It's free.
Electric shuttles ready and roaming downtown, picking up passengers, connecting people to resources to spur on the economy.
Today, we're officially launching the STL Downtown Link service, a free on-demand shuttle service to pick you up where you are and take you anywhere you need to go downtown.
The service, the result of a pilot program funded by the city using Federal American Recovery Plan Act funds, or ARPA. Alderman James Page says he uses the service himself.
I use it to commute from my residence to the Downtown Neighborhood Association office, and I absolutely loved it.
The program is powered by a St. Louis company called Labyrinth Smart Mobility. The purpose of the program is to help everybody, providing access to employment, public transportation, healthcare, education, entertainment, healthy food, and city services.
Currently, we'll go to Union Station or around 20th Street, all the way to the river. We won't go into the river. We'll stop there. And then we have the baseball over there. We'll go down to the baseball stadium. And then we go all the way to the NGA in Cass. It's very important for this program to serve all of downtown and to move north.
So for now, it's 2 6-person shuttles running Monday through Friday between 9 a.m. and 2 p.m. and 3 to 8 p.m.
Getting to where you need to go, including to your friends and everything like that, it's so important, and Labyrinth Mobility is clearly helping that solution.
For rider safety, each shuttle is partitioned, sterilized, and camera monitored.
Access to mobility creates economic stability.
Executive Vice President of Business Development Mark Minden says the program should be a driving force to get things rolling in the River City again.
Downtown's back. It's time for us to get out of the house. It's time for us to go experience each other again, have that human connection and human emotion. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to literally connect people together and move them around and create these experiences downtown.
The shuttles can be flagged down like a traditional taxi.
You need a ride?
Called by phone by the number seen here, or by using an app, which is called TripShot.
So what we do is we collect data internally, no personal identifiable information, but we collect data on where we're picking up, what time of day, how long they waited, did they ride public transit, and we provide that data to right size the program and make database decisions. So as the demand goes up, we will monitor that and we can adjust accordingly.
So this is my first time here in St. Louis.
This family from Eastern Europe said the service sure came in handy for them.
I was trying to use my Google map to find this street, and he stopped and said, I will take it gladly, you know. It's so amazing to see how people support you, you know. It's a free ride. When I heard about that it's a free ride, you don't need to pay anything. So it was really, really amazing.
Which Minden says the program is all about.
And seeing a family that comes to visit that didn't know what was happening in St. Louis and showing them that was an incredible feeling. And that's what's going to happen downtown. People are going to be able to get where they need to go and connect.
Reporting for Labyrinth Smart Mobility, I'm Rafer Weigel, Story Smart.
Did that come across in the video? Okay. And then what I'd like to do, so we currently have a program running 10 hours a day that's free for everyone, that will pick you up where you are and take you where you want to go with an ambassador. What we're about is human connection. We're about having an ambassador that lives locally in the city and talks about the city and can pick people up and get them there. We can put, we actually have bicycle racks. We can put bicycles on the back of the shuttles. If someone took a scooter, we can throw a scooter on the back of it. So we're about getting people around to where they need to go. Real quick, I'd like to share an update of that program. We have a monthly meeting with the city of St. Louis and other stakeholders that got the program going. And we do a review of the data and engagement in what we've done. And I'd like to highlight that, and then I'll open it up for some questions. Can everyone see this? Okay. So the STL Downtown Link, this is our third meeting, our third customer service review with the link. And I'd like to start this with a story. I'd like to talk about Miss Rosie and Miss Caroline that both live in the retirement center off of Biddle. Our driver texted me this on June 2nd. He was working. So for anybody that doesn't know, we run from 9 in the morning until 2 in the afternoon. We take an hour break and we run from 3 to 8 in the evening. Well, it was about 1:50 when he was taking a group of ladies around, Miss Caroline, Miss Rosie. He took them to the library to get some laptops and took them back home, and then took them to the grocery store because they were hungry. Well, the story continued from there because they're sharing that with the rest of the retirement community. And now we're servicing that area constantly. And on Wednesdays, Miss Rosie and Miss Caroline go out, and that's their day to get it. And last Wednesday, they were able to go out. She went to T-Mobile to pay a bill. Then we were able to pick them up, took Miss Caroline to the grocery store. And then on the way home, they had a coupon for a pizza, went and got a pizza. And so that's what a community mobility program is all about. If we look at engagement, what we do is we not only are we giving rides downtown, we're engaging the community as a company. And so currently the St. Patrick's Center is calling for client services to actually help move people to get to appointments in the downtown area. We have Greater STL Inc. we're working with. They reached out the other day for a beer heritage festival that is happening downtown, that we're able to take people around and notify people and bring them information on it. Again, it's a human connection. It's the ambassador being able to have and talk to people that are visiting or that live downtown. We also volunteered our services for the Juneteenth celebration in Del Mar. Not only did we drive around and do outreach, but we volunteered shuttles that day. We volunteered for the June 20th Freedom Suite monument dedication. We were able to move some people around. We were already operating that day as well. And here we are in the Community Mobility Committee meeting, June 22nd. We're taking the time to participate and let people know about what we do and give them our information and be able to do that outreach. We're going to be volunteering at both Pride Fest and downtown and in Tower Grove to move people around and to help. So the downtown Schnucks now has a security officer that calls, I want to say at least 10 times a day for rides from Schnucks, and just a champion to make sure people get around downtown. Convention center is calling us constantly. We have a Bible convention in the other day, and moved a ton of people around downtown. Channel 4 reached out because they were shutting the scooters down downtown. I made myself available, ran downtown and did an interview and talked about the service we provided as well, to help supplement until we figure out what's going on. And then continued engagement with businesses and hotel traffic downtown. We look at data, data, well, it's the new currency of the world. And so if we look at our current data, and this is from the last review, I believe is on the 16th. So we're slightly increasing in female ridership. This is a safe, escorted way of getting around downtown. If you look at percentage of how they got the shuttle, well, we have standard stops. A large percentage is street hail, because you can utilize this like a taxi cab. You can wave it down and you have an ambassador that can pull over. There's 6 points of entry in the vehicle. It's very easy to communicate to each sides. A lot of our rides are from people waving it down and communicating with the driver. Dispatch phone calls are at 40%. App is only at 9.4%. Not a lot of people using the app downtown, surprisingly. And then you look at standard stops. So this is giving you a snapshot of downtown and the data we collect the percentage of people going to landmarks, what time of day, how they got it, recreation, total ridership. So we provide that in a real-time dashboard. If you look at the percentage of ridership increase over 1 month, we've had over a 50% increase and a steady percentage of increase week to week. Now people are calling to be the first ride at the 8 o'clock hour and at the 2 o'clock hour. Here's our current map for downtown. So we have pickup stops for, we cover the landing as well. Hard to do on a scooter on the cobblestone, but we're able to get down there. We also have the arch. We also go as far as down on Cass Street and a little further. And we're hoping to continue making everybody happy. We put out flyers at the businesses in the different locations to let people know about the services. And so now there's a QR code that downloads to the app. They have the phone number and they're able to get it. And I just want to recap some of the testimonials that happened over the past month and a half. Here's one that was sent to the mayor's office. I've taken the downtown link, and being a resident downtown, it's been a godsend. Being a woman walking after a certain time alone, going to the store, this link has made it safer to maneuver, safer between the store and home or a Blues game. The dividers in the car for COVID safety are appreciated as well. And goes on to ask about if we're hiring, as she's interested in potentially working downtown. We have Andre Moore, a Navy vet that's legally blind. This service is great for me when I go visit my barber downtown or to catch an event downtown. A great service for the city. I'm just giving a snapshot of some of the testimonials from people utilizing the service downtown with ambassadors that's free. And so I wanted to open up for questions now.
Great, thank you, Mark. We do have a couple of questions. Kim wanted to know, are the vehicles that are downtown wheelchair accessible?
Yeah, so we do have a wheelchair accessible vehicle. We can, upon, this is a pilot. When the pilot is done, we're available to provide that wheelchair accessible vehicle. We did not have that developed at the time, but it is available now. And so as soon as we're ready to expand, we do have a wheelchair accessible vehicle. I would like to also point out, though, there's a lot of different disabilities. And it's not only wheelchair accessible, or what we call a personal motorized vehicle device. We can actually fit a wheelchair in our vehicle, and we help put wheelchairs in our vehicle. We have a tote on the back that can carry a wheelchair. Our drivers are trained, and we help people in that might have a wheelchair. We do not move a personal motorized device yet, but we do have a vehicle developed that can do that. But unlike the scooters or other modes of operation, we can still take people with other disabilities as well.
Mark, how long do you think it'll be before you roll out that new vehicle?
That would depend on, so we do our service as a turnkey operation, and we charge an hourly rate to cities, municipalities, public transit agencies, community improvement districts, special business districts, private developers. We are able to go when the funding is there. As soon as somebody wants to pay, or as soon as somebody can fund, or funding is available for that vehicle, it will be ready to be implemented.
Okay, and this was federally funded. You received ARPA funds for this program?
Correct, for this pilot.
Okay.
So Mark, I think you addressed a couple of the other questions, which are about how the business model can scale and how it's sustainable without stimulus funding.
Absolutely.
Do you want to just say something really quick about that, and then we'll have to move on to our next agenda item?
And let me take a step back. St. Louis had a robust transit system that we ripped out and put a highway down the middle of it. What we're trying to do is make an intelligent on-demand system that can pick people up and take them where they need to go, and combine that to public transit. So we want to create a system that can pick somebody up from the front door, as a first last mile solution and take them to Metro. We want to pick them up from the front door and take them to the hospital. We want to take them to work, to play, to live. And so how this is funded going forward is much like mobility as utilities infrastructure. How important is an elevator to a building? We're not selling anything above the second floor if we don't have transportation up there. We need to change the paradigm of how we think about mobility in St. Louis, because we had it before. The path going forward is going to be combining stakeholders. There's funding mechanisms with community improvement districts. There's plenty of development. There are other resources, federal, state, and local. And the goal is to create a robust transit multimodal system that connects with everybody.
Thanks, Mark. We have a couple of other questions, but I'm going to follow up with you after this meeting to get those answers, and we'll follow up with folks with those. We just have a couple minutes left.
I would like to provide in the chat, I'll provide my email and personal cell as well.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Mark. And thank you so much for being here and sharing about this program and pilot. So I want to do a brief subcommittee update. I'm going to hand it over to Dawn and Charles in the engagement committee to give a brief open seats update.
Yes, so in between this month and last month, we did have one more person apply to be a member of the CMC. The engagement committee voted or recommended that they be a non-voting member. Since January, we have had 4 applicants. One person has been voted as a voting member, and the other 3 have been recommended as non-voting members. In total for the open seats, for those who do not know what I'm talking about, we have an open seats initiative with the CMC voting members to ensure that the voting portion of the CMC represents the demographics of St. Louis City. And so right now, we have, based on the percentage, sorry, I'm reading my notes. Right now, we are asking that 45% of the CMC voting be Black, 48% identify as white, 4% identify as Asian, 4% Hispanic, 13% with a disability, and 10% be a member of the LGBTQIA+ community. Right now, we have 5 members who identify as Black, 6 that identify as white, 1 that identifies as Asian, 1 that identifies as Latino, 2 that have a disability. No one has stepped forward with as a member of the LGBTQIA+ community. And so we are continuing to try to build out the diversity of the CMC, and we'll report back in December about our progress.
Thanks, Dawn. And we'll also include those percentages in the notes. Sam.
Everyone, just want to give a quick update about open space subcommittee. We tackled things like parklets, and one of the big things we're working on right now is parking day. I just wanted to remind everyone that parking day this year is on September 16th. That is a Friday. We will be, our subcommittee has been partnering very heavily with the treasurer's office to go back to kind of our 2019 parking day that was very formalized to make those permits free and things like that. We will be pushing out a guide and the application for parking day around the beginning of July. So keep an eye out for that. We will put it out on social media, and obviously we'll mention it again at the next CMC meeting. So, but September 16th, put that on your calendars, parking day.
Great, thanks, Sam. A very quick update on traffic calming. Thanks everyone for sticking with us. The traffic calming committee will meet again next week, 10 to 11 a.m. We are very grateful to have Bryce Monser, who's recently joined TrailNet, help us continue the work of that committee. So if you are a member of that committee or you're interested in being a member and participating in the traffic calming guide, we'll send out a reminder email next week. And then finally, one last plug, this is a save the date for Sunday, July 17th. Tower Grove Park is hosting a community day that is very focused on mobility the way that we are. So we're gonna have some sort of CMC casual hangout in the park, which will probably be me sitting on a picnic blanket offering you snacks. So more details with when in that time frame it will happen, but it will be sometime in the 2 to 5 p.m. range on Sunday, July 17th. So save that date. I hope you can come visit in person. It would be lovely to see some of your faces in real life, since I have not seen you in real life in years. So thanks everyone for your time. Particularly thank you to Mark and to our streets colleagues for participating today and answering all these questions. We'll be doing follow-up on all of the things that were raised today, and you'll see that in the notes going forward. Thanks, everybody.
Have a good Wednesday.
Thanks, Liz.
Thank you.